Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Do You Study Abroad podcast. I'm still trying to get it named the Do You AbroadCast, but I'm not sure if that will get approved. I need to talk to my boss. But regardless, welcome to the Do You AbroadCast. Today, I'm interviewing Kat, who studied abroad in Japan. So do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. My name is Kat. I'm a senior and I studied abroad in Japan the spring of my junior year. I'm from Buffalo, New York, and I'm studying international studies, gender and women's studies, and then I have 2 minors in English and Japanese.
Nice. Kind of a stacked resume. Kat, do you want to introduce your program a little, like which university you studied at, that kind of thing?
Yeah. I went to Doshisha University in Kyoto. And it was just like a semester. Their semesters, the school year starts in the spring, so it was like March to basically August was one full semester.
Okay, cool. So wait, how many months was that?
That was 5 months for me, but some people stay longer, leave, after the summer if they want to travel or something.
Yeah, that's definitely one of our longer programs is 5 months. Most of them are more in like the 3.5 to 4 month range. Yeah. But how did you did you feel like 5 months was enough time to sort of get your bearings?
Yeah, actually, it felt kind of unfortunate because I feel like right when I left was when I was really starting to get the language and all the little nuances of things. So yeah, then you're kind of like ripped from it. But also at the same time, it's like, this part of you is like, okay, it's time to go back, Yeah, to resume the rest of your life, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I've talked to a lot of students who have said the same thing, like just right as you start to get settled is when you come back. And that is the weird thing about studying abroad. Like it feels so long when you're there in the moment, but it's actually such a blip in time. It's crazy. Yeah. So I guess you had kind of talked about like the language a little bit, but how much Japanese did you take before you actually went to Japan?
So I started my freshman year and I took like 2.5 years. So I went through like the 1000, the 2000, and then the third year level. But when I got there, I still could not speak like barely anything. I was so nervous. But just being there was, I think, how I actually learned most of the language, which is crazy because it was like 5 months versus 2.5 years. But
that is crazy.
Yeah,
immersion is like so powerful.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, how did you get less nervous to speak the language?
I remember when I bought this like pocket dictionary because I didn't want to have to, because Google Translate sometimes is weird. And I wanted to be able to whip that out and like, if I wanted to know what something meant, I would or how to say something. And I also told myself that I would just try to speak to people. So like the first week when I was there, I was just going to different places and just talking to people on the train, and I probably was annoying, but I just felt like I needed to just, I was like, this is gonna be embarrassing, but I just have to like force myself to do that.
It's kind of the only way.
Yeah.
That's honestly pretty impressive that it only took you a week to get to that point. It took me way longer, I feel like, to get to that point where I was like willing to just start having conversations with strangers. But I guess one thing that you had talked about when we were like talking previously was about how there's like just this level of discomfort and like every interaction feels really difficult when you're in a place where you don't speak the language. Do you elaborate on that at all?
Yeah. I guess it's just easy to take the everyday things for granted that, when you're speaking in your native language are just so easy. But I've said like even things like going to the convenience store, like I'm like, oh, I had a bad day. Like, let me get something for myself. And it's just like hard because someone's speaking to you and you don't know what they're saying, or you're checking out and like something went wrong and you're like, I've done this a million times. How am I still, not understanding what's going on? But like that just happens constantly. Or I think you feel that pressure building up and then there's just kind of nobody else that there that you can like explain this to that would like understand it, because all of your friends are somewhere else and you're like, oh, this like really sucks. And it's like, well, yeah, of course it sucks, but you want someone to like experience it with you. But sometimes there's not that. And you kind of just have to be like, okay, like I have to accept that this discomfort is, maybe not going to be translatable to my family or my friends. Yeah.
That is like a weird part of studying abroad. Really, you are like the only person having that experience a lot of the time. So it does feel very not relatable sometimes, especially if there's not that many like DU students on the program, which a lot of programs there's not.
But then when you come back and, you know, you can do stuff like this, it's like, okay, you know, I'm not the only one in the world who experienced this, but in the moment sometimes it's like, oh no.
If you're watching on video, you've probably already noticed, but there's this awesome art piece behind me on the whiteboard that one of our study abroad peer advisors, Corinne, did for the podcast. She's an incredible artist, and everybody should go follow her at Echoes of Culture on Instagram. I just wanted to take one moment to shout her out.
Well, I was going to say about talking to strangers, though, one thing was I did that for the first week, and then I had this weird interaction with this man on the train who was like trying to hit on me, but I didn't realize because he was saying this word in Japanese that I didn't understand the full connotation of it. I was like, oh, okay, like, but I didn't really know what was going on, and I felt so embarrassed and like discouraged after that. So I don't know, there's all these layers, I think, of like, it's not just like, oh, you talk to strangers and everything's gonna be peachy. It's like, I don't know, your identity is playing in different ways, so.
Yeah, and there's also cultural context. Yeah. It's like, very important to keep in mind. But that's so brave, even just to put yourself out there in that way. And you did try and, have conversations with strangers for a long time. Like, that's pretty cool. I think it is kind of sad sometimes when I feel like one thing that stood out to me about your study project experience is, like, how many friends you made that were just like other students at your university, like how many local friends you made. Because I remember coming back and I had talked about how I had made local connections, and some people who also studied abroad were like really jarred to find out that I like had made friends with non-Americans. And I feel like you made like a lot of connections. Didn't you join the tennis team?
I did.
Yeah, I
did.
Making local friends.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think, it's like if you can try to be friends with people who are local or just, not American study abroad students, at least. But yeah, I joined the tennis team, and that was kind of funny because apparently there's this connotation, which I didn't realize when I joined, that tennis clubs are kind of like where people go if they want to drink or like party or something.
Oh, really?
But thank God I joined like a normal tennis team. But I would tell people that and they'd be like, you joined a tennis team? They were like, look at me like I was crazy. But anyway, they were really nice and we actually played tennis, but like I thought it would be more maybe relaxed, but we were like doing drills and stuff. But they would also have like these events after with like the club and stuff, but it was hard to know sometimes, like they were so welcoming, and they would invite, it was me and my other friend Kai, to all of these like events and stuff, but you kind of sometimes feel suspicious, or I did, because it's like, are they just being nice to me because I'm like a foreigner and they have to be nice to me, or like they're just being polite and I'm not picking up that, they're not actually wanting to be my friend. They're just, do you know what I'm saying? Like
were you trying to figure out if you were unwell?
Right, but they can't say that. They would never, you know what I'm saying? They would never. They would they would go out of their way to make you feel so welcome, but it would kind of, even if they didn't feel that way genuinely. And it's like, well, I don't want to make them feel like they have to like pretend that they like me if they don't. So I guess something I noticed from making local friends and like being in these social groups was like the directness of my communication skills or my understanding of what's going on around me. It has to be very explicit for me to understand what's going on, but that's not how, a lot of social things were operating. And that was very strange. And I never realized that about myself. I'm like, wow, I'm kind of like, you got to tell me explicitly or I don't know what's going on. Like, that's kind of embarrassing. I don't know if that's an American thing, but so it was really cool, I guess, to like be a part of those social groups and like also maybe like just have one-on-one moments. You met my friend Yeah, I don't know if you remember. Her name is Becky.
Yeah, I remember Becky. We follow each other on Instagram.
Yes. Yeah. So like it was fun to do that. And it was also like just interesting to realize that, I don't know, there's just so many different ways to socialize and stuff. And I'm like, wow, I'm actually not, I don't really know that much. I'm kind of just a little American, you know, and I think that I can get along with everybody, but yeah.
Well, and that's why cultural context, again, is so important. And there's things that it doesn't matter how much research you do ahead of time. Like, there's just cultural norms you are not going to know. Like, you've talked about words that have gone over your head, you know, or cultural norms or, you know, sort of these connotations of things that you had no idea. Usually these aren't things you can just, like, look up. It takes, like, being in the moment a lot of times to figure them out, which can feel really embarrassing. But I think it's also kind of just part of the experience. And then you add language on top of it. And I think it's like that much harder because not only are you like quite literally just trying to understand the words people are saying, but you're trying to, one, be able to like accurately translate what they're saying to you and then understand if there's like some, you know, other connotation that's not being said, which is so hard to do when it's not your first language.
Yeah.
So,
and not to like, you know, generalize Japanese culture, but I think it is a pretty, you know, well-known observation that there is a lot more nuance in what people say, and like these layers of connotations than, you know, American English. So yeah, there's always something that you're worried about. But honestly, like the embarrassment, it's kind of funny because you just kind of have to get over it. Because you're like, no matter what I do, like I'm going to stand out and I'm going to embarrass myself. So it's kind of like trial by fire, but it works out in the end. Yeah.
No, I think that's very true. It's like hard to not feel just like a obnoxious American, but then also sometimes it's just like existing. You're just kind of going to feel that way. Yeah. But obviously, you know, still make efforts, which I know you made a lot of efforts to do. Well, my question is, if you had advice for a DU student who's planning on going abroad, what would your advice be?
I think, so when I was preparing to go, I didn't want to have the expectation that it would be awesome and that I would make all these friends and that it would change my life, because I just knew that I would be let down if I, you know, had these super high expectations. But then I think I almost went too far the other way where I prepared to literally not have any friends for like 5 months. And, you know, I was like, this could suck. Like I could be alone for, you know, and I might not like it. And I almost, I think, put a different expectation on it. And then when that expectation wasn't met, it was still weird, right? So I guess, I think it's impossible not to have expectations for things, but I guess try to manage them and just kind of let what's going to happen. And just keep in mind that it's all temporary and that there's going to be wonderful, amazing things in every moment, even if it sucks and you're homesick, or if you're confused and embarrassed. Like it's not life-changing in that like, whoa, I've had a revelation that I can now preach to the whole world kind of way, but I think it's a really important experience. And it's just good to be open to everything and not pigeonhole yourself at the very beginning. Yeah.
That's really good advice. Well, Kat was also on the DU blog. So if you want to read a little bit about their experience in Japan, you can do that on the DU blog. And that's on our website in case you didn't know. But yeah, thank you for letting me interview you and for sharing about Japan.
Thank you.